Woo! Hey, somebody's giggling. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I'm talking.
Yes, we can hear
You're
you.
just nodding. Okay. All right. So, Game of Thrones, episode 3, guys. Get excited.
Awesome.
Come on. Yeah.
Get
All right.
hyped.
It's sort of like
Woo!
a waiting if we're going or not. So, uh, episode 3 just aired. Let's go ahead and go down our dive right in. So, top left right now is me. I'm Matt. Top right is Brandon. Bottom left is Nick, and bottom right is Ben. Say hi, guys.
Hello. It's a story of a man named Brady, and he has three other very nice friends,
But you're over there.
and they're going to talk about Game of
Here,
Thrones.
we could do like a high five or something. No, other way. All right, let's stop doing this. Let's
But
actually
Ken,
talk.
we just talked about the episode.
Let's actually talk about the
Yeah.
episode.
It was a
So-
good episode.
Yeah, it was actually like an amazing episode. So,
Spoilers.
spoiler.
Aren't we?
So last week, episode 2, we talked a lot about sort of the chess pieces, and it ended with that sea battle that brought us into the Euron Greyjoy rock star status, where he had all of his he brought his gift basically of Yara
sure.
and Ilaria to Cersei, and this episode 3, doesn't start with that, but it kind of sets the wheels in motion for episode 3 in terms of the different alliances and where things are going forward. And we really start to get a sense of the big picture. What did you guys think overall? Brandon, I'm going to start with you with this episode.
I loved it. I think it really paid on the promise of kind of the what we were referring to as kind of the chess pieces being set in the previous 2 episodes. To your point, I really liked what they're doing with Euron. He's a lot more interesting a character than he's as much of an interesting character I think he's becoming as much as he is in the books as far as being interesting, and he's really I think rewarding more than what it really seemed like he was going to be in the previous season when they were kind of leading it up. So that little march he did with his gift through town and how much he was just eating it all up, that was some delicious scenery chewing that he was doing, and that was awesome.
What did you guys think, Nick, Brandon, or Ben?
Yeah, I thought it was. So it wasn't like your epic Game of Thrones episode, but it was probably my favorite episode of the season. Just because they had like the key meetings that we were looking for. And then they like let the scenes breathe a little bit. Like I feel like the first 2 episodes was like boom, 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 and like here they kind of went boom, boom through like the relationships that maybe matter a little less. But then when they got to like the strafe between Jamie and Euron or Dany meeting Jon, they let it breathe a little bit. And I really love the moments with Jon and Tyrion. A lot of it was really good. My favorite episode this season.
I agree with Nick. I think it was my favorite episode of the season because I think part of the best part of the Game of Thrones to me is the these intricate woven conversations with different characters, and really developing those moments. Like if you think about it, 90% of Game of Thrones is just them talking, to each other. The other 10% is great, but it's great dialogue. It's kind of like Dragon Ball Z, It's like
Yeah.
happy and
Oh!
but yeah, so like I agree. I love that Shakespeare-ness of it, I guess you would say. I don't know, for lack of a better word. So I love this episode the most this season. It felt more like Game of Thrones. We didn't rush it.
Yeah, I think this episode really started to hit at even some of the, I don't know, we can get into like some of the more subtle hints, I guess, but it's sort of acknowledging even more from the first 2 episodes as well, like the fan theories, even of like once these meetings are happening, like there's so much potential of like what each like little line of dialogue could mean. And I guess my big takeaway was the Tyrion, like, and we'll get to it later, but like the Tyrion, Jon Snow, Daenerys meet up that finally happened. It was more Jon Snow and Daenerys meet up, but the fact that it was the three of them and they each got their little pairings to talk to each other and sort of plan and like show their personalities a little bit. I don't know. I'm feeling very much on board with the Targaryen triumvirate theory right now. What do you guys?
What's
think?
that theory? What's that theory?
That
three
they're
heads
all
of the
related.
dragon?
Yeah, that they're all related. They're all the three head. Like, so we already know that John doesn't know it, but we know as the audience, we know for sure that there are two Targaryens right now. But the theory is that that we talked about in our predictions episode was the S plus J. Is that the theory?
No.
That Tyrion is that's not
R
it.
plus L equals J.
R plus L. Okay, what am I thinking of? That's a whole nother.
know.
That's probably a whole nother show. But like, there's that Tyrion is also Targaryen, so like we're starting to get like this brotherly vibe from the two with Jon and Tyrion, and on top of some of the other like little hints. So I'm all on board on that right now.
Yeah, the Parent Trap.
I like the idea of the three-headed dragon. I don't know, even though I'm well aware of the theories, I'm not sure if I buy into yet another, because eventually at some point it's no longer secret Targaryen, right? It's like, man, we're sick with Targaryens. So I think it's okay if the three-headed dragon isn't all three Targaryens personally.
Okay. Well, so speaking of Euron, I kind of thought, let's take a check-in with our death pool, because it is totally uneventful. There was Jorah had a kind of a scene in the last episode, but he was, as we found out, cured immediately. So one of my like forefront players is like already on the health trip. Brandon, you had like all three in play this episode, and none of them died.
I didn't know if she's going to take I didn't know if Melisandre was going to take a header off the cliff when she talked about how her job's done. I was thinking I might get lucky right there at the very beginning. Obviously, Ellaria is in some really deep crap, so she's not sitting pretty. And
Yeah, but she said she wants him to live forever.
we all know
you know.
Theon deserves to die.
Yeah.
Theon had his like 30 seconds of screen time this episode where he's just like flopping around on the boat deck like a fish,
Yeah.
like a like a pathetic fish.
But
So
he doesn't deserve that much screen time, to be
No.
honest with you. You know, he takes up too much of Game of Thrones, I think.
So interesting
anyways,
question.
that's
So interesting question. What if we never see Ellaria again? How do we resolve the death pool? Because hypothetically, they could. I think they'll go back to it, but there might be
Yeah.
a point where she's just rotting and you don't really see her again. Like,
We need confirmation of death for this pool, Nick. All right.
Mm.
So
Okay.
Exhibit A.
Brandon does not get his 3 points until we get the body.
So you're saying Stannis is technically still out there?
yeah,
'Cause we never
or
actually saw a body.
Olenna. Like hypothetically, we'll probably never see her again. But
I think Stannis is going to be a White Walker. That's what I
nice.
think. What about that? Like, are we off the table if they become White Walkers? Or not White Walkers, but the Whites?
Well, that was my big prediction at the start of the season, was that Jon would become a white, but there's no evidence of that for this episode at all.
No. Our death pool
You
is
could make an
freaked out.
argument he is currently a fire white, but I don't know if you want to get into that much deep book right now or not.
The fire white. Well, we got the whole like I brought ice and fire together, and I bet George R. R. Martin was like, yes, they're acknowledging me.
somebody on the street
Directly.
angry. Now
Who's
happy.
angry at us?
I don't know.
Now happy.
Crying.
Now sad. Oh no.
They're mad that we're not streaming the episode for her. I think. It's like, no, we're not gonna.
We're sorry. We don't want to go to prison for you.
Well, Ben might.
Ben, go get on it. Any other like kind of big picture thoughts from this? I really did think the John meetup with Daenerys was
Huge.
Was huge. And I thought they played it really well. They didn't make the rationality for each of the characters for how they would tackle this situation. Like, they didn't rush it. They actually are,
Right.
thinking it through, which I appreciated a lot. What else stood out for you guys?
I really like the dueling Lannister wartime minds. Like, Tyrion is making all these plans to take Casterly Rock or whatever, and you think, oh, they're gonna be successful, and then it kind of seemed a little too easy, and then it's all like, oh, Jaime had another good plan, so it's kind of nice to see.
He had the upper hand.
I don't have the cricket
Yeah.
sound, Ben. Sorry.
We're definitely going to need some crickets for next week.
next week.
Yeah.
And actually,
Somebody-
Ben, maybe if you just, since it's usually you, if you
Can
wanna just
everyone
keep it
watching
handy.
just type boo? Really, like. No, but it's kind of cool because they're like the two military minds and the strategists, and they're brothers, and like that was kind of cool to see them kind of both get the upper hand. There you go, Ben. It was actually a good thing that you said. I
Well,
liked it.
if they'd set him up to be squashed, because I mean, we spent a lot. If you remember in our kind of setting up the season, we talked about one of the challenges was making it seem like Daenerys wasn't just going to completely squash him. She's got these 3 dragons. It's like how are we going to make it seem even? And what we're kind of forgetting about, and what I think the show's done an excellent job of, is like Jaime's no slouch when it comes to battle and strategy, right? And Cersei's clever. They're not to be completely disregarded. So yes, she's got 3 dragons, but as long as she's not willing to ride them in and just lay waste to everything, it's not going to be a cakewalk. And I love the fact that the show, even though we all might have predictions of where everything is going to end up long term, I love that they're setting it up so that there is a challenge. There is going to be an arc there.
I find it interesting. I feel like they're setting it up in a way where Dany, that they're losing, like, so far, like they're getting bested to where like she's gonna get to the point where she wants to take action with her dragon. She kind of mentioned that in the episode today.
Yeah.
She doesn't, but also they're forcing the hand of them, Jon Snow's and her alliance. Like they're like doing it rather quickly. Like, I don't need you, Jon Snow, but now it's like, yeah, we do need each other.
That's
so
true. Yeah, they kind of they force that at the end, that like they really need each other.
But
Yeah.
on the same token, when he asked her, so does that mean you believe me? She very specifically did not answer that question.
No, she
So
did not.
He's definitely left with the strong impression that as much as she's kind of going along and giving him a little bit of what he wants, he still has to, he hasn't made his case.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it sort of continues the trend of this season of information and skepticism. Like that's sort of like the main theme of like this season, is how information is communicated. Like, Jon has to ask Tyrion, like, how do I convince people that this happens? And Tyrion is like, oh, I believe honest people over people who are just say they know things. But like that's sort of been the main struggle, I think, for the first 3 episodes, is to convince people of the impending the coming danger.
And I think that might continue to be a thing all season. That how do we make the people in the South that have got they're completely unaware of what dangers are actually even out there, that it is impending. What did you guys think about the reintroduction? We haven't really talked about the Bank of Bravos lately, and obviously that was brought heavily. And if you I don't know if you guys watched for next season, or excuse me, for next week's episode, but there's a scene with him again. So that's obviously an angle. What are you guys' take on that?
It's interesting because that's why they went to take that gold. You mean like,
High
well, we don't
Gardens.
have our High Garden. They went to High Garden to take that gold. So like, it's interesting. Like, well, stay a fortnight, and all your problems will be solved. Like
Spot on, Cersei Lannister.
Yeah, perfect.
I think it's like strengthening, in some ways, it's strengthening Cersei, because now she's gonna have more buy-in with the Bank of Bravos, and he seemed like he was impressed by her. So like there are still a lot of alliances, I guess, that could potentially be involved from Essos. Slave masters. I mean, I don't know that they were completely defeated. Like Danny kind of left the situation over there in a way, like after that battle last season. So I feel like with an alliance with the Bank of Bravos and paying their debts like the Lannisters always do, that potentially they could have more allies on their side in the future, which could distract Danny even more so and make it her less likely to help Jon with the real war and focus more on the war for King's Landing. I don't know.
I completely agree. I think it's about Cersei finding a way to make herself even more of a threat. She's not paying off those debts simply because of the reputation and because she wants to make good on what she owes. There's a future. It has something to do with the next step that we're not seeing yet.
But it's all for naught. It's all for naught. Going to be Queen of the Dead.
Could have said Queen of the Ashes.
Which skeleton's going to be sitting on the Iron Throne?
Yeah. Probably the Night's King. He'd probably be sitting on. Wouldn't that be something?
That was my prediction.
Like that?
That was my prediction.
Well,
yes.
Didn't Bran have a vision of King's Landing like with snow in it? Remember, or who knows who had that vision? That was
no, and I don't think it was snow. I think you're talking
ashes.
You're talking. I think it's beginning of season 2. Daenerys.
Yeah,
Daenerys had, and I think it was ash, not snow.
One or the other.
I don't know if it was snow or ash.
When Westeros comes ashes, Daenerys will become queen.
This is not our Dunkirk. This is not our Dunkirk podcast.
that was a spot on Sandor Clegane. I'm just gonna take all your impressions and turn them into Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like
we've already made this very clear. Samwell Tarly's going to end up on the Iron Throne at the end of next season.
Yes.
So
He just kind of he
got out of trouble.
That was
That was great.
Before we get into stock up, stock down, I think we can talk a little bit about Sam's arc a little bit, because he cured Jorah just by reading the books, right, and following the instructions and like going against the rules.
I like that line.
And obviously the Archmaester Jim Broadbent or whatever, he picked up on like, oh, you did a great job, and like I feel like they're setting this up as that they appreciate what he's doing, and they continue to show this appreciation that like, oh, he shows skills and he's risk taker and he's smart, but here's more grunt work, mister, like you're a low level guy. But I think it's obviously more part of a broader vision that they are like, oh, I need you to copy all these books, and I'm assuming like there's like amazing information in the books he wants him to copy, and he's like seeing his potential and just giving Sam opportunities to like it's all part of a bigger plan.
That's awfully sweet, Matt. That's awfully sweet.
He has graduated from reading the tarot or the signs in the shit pans to actually reading books. So I really like that scene. I really like what they're doing with Sam, and I'm not the biggest Sam supporter.
I think that's the second time they took Broadbent's character and made it so, like, for instance, when Sam was telling the story, you thought for sure he was going to downplay it and talk about, oh, you're a crazy kid, when he's talking about the White Walkers, and instead he said, nope, I actually believe you. That story's so fantastical, who would make it up? It's kind of turning those expectations on our ears. We thought he was going to get completely slammed, right, for breaking the rules, and he obviously got information out of a book he wasn't supposed to have access to, and while he didn't, like, give him a major reward, he made it clear that he was impressed with him, and he even said you ought to feel proud about what you've done. So I like that they're taking the tropes about the somebody getting in trouble for doing the right thing, and they're twisting it on us. I like that.
It's kind of
I love that actor.
Yeah,
that actor's great. Like, he's great.
It's kind of Harry Potter-esque. And maybe I'm just like getting confused by the English accents, but
well, he's in Harry Potter.
Well, I know that. I'm not talking about his character. I'm
talking about it's great. You're not talking about Samwell Tarly?
I am talking about Samwell. I'm talking about it seems very Harry Potter-esque, like I'm destined for greater things and I can do more if I just can learn. I'm going to break some rules and everyone's going to support me no matter what.
I was joking having you suggest that Samwell Tarly was in Harry Potter. So when it's the other actor, but I got you.
So let's go straight to some whose stock is rising and whose
Mm-hmm.
is going down. I'm gonna start just because I have it queued up. I thought this was Tyrion's best episode of the season and best episode in a little while to demonstrate
Even though
his
sh-
value.
Even though shit's hitting the fan with him.
Why do you say that?
Well, go do your thing. I'll comment after.
Well, I mean, I feel like he had the most. He's showing his Lannister side by intense strategy of knowing the sewers and knowing how to like try to bring Daenerys and Jon together. And he's sort of managing all these people and like army conflict battles and stuff. But I think they showed a lot too with how he's the most valuable asset right now to like for both fronts of these wars. Like he can make it all happen if he does it correctly. So I think his value and also his character within the show is at an all-time high right now.
I think his character's at a high, but his value is at a low because like everybody's dying. Like all the like they came and did these secret plans, you know, to do this, and like 2 fleets are lost. You know, 1 ally is gone.
Is he gonna be your down? Save it for later, man. If
Yeah,
you're also
geez.
but I know, but I'll find somebody else. But like I'm just disputing Matt's point. I think as a character, it's up. Like his talking to Jon and trying to negotiate that with the Dragon Ice. Is that what it's called? Dragon Ice?
Dragon Glass.
Dragon Glass. Excuse me. Sorry, but like with the Dragon Glass and trying to like fix that, you know, situation and stuff. I think there are some ups, but like his plan, you know, of conquering Westeros is down.
So I can't believe I'm sitting here agreeing with Ben. I think Ben's got it completely right. I think I agree. As a character, the scenes with him were really interesting, and I really like that dialogue and interaction. But I have to agree, from a lot of his advice is actually turning out to be undercut by what Jaime's doing. Yeah, they've got Casterly Rock, but it's almost worthless because there's no gold there. There's no food stores there. They just killed all their. They actually used it to wipe out the remaining ships that was in Dany's armada. So in the last, episode and a half, Dany's now has no ships, has no Dorne army, has no Tyrell army. She's really, and her Unsully, if we're led to believe that's her entire Unsully army, they're all now stranded at Casterly Rock. So she's got the Dothraki horde, and she's got her dragons. And a lot of that has to do with Tyrion. A lot of that has to do with Tyrion's plan kind of getting subverted by his brother, who you would expect to be a little bit better at military strategy.
Crap. She's really gonna need the North.
Yep.
But
sounds
Jon
like a
don't want to
J.J.
fight
Abrams
that battle. Jon wants to head up north.
He's like, maybe they hope to have a compromise. You know.
What?
That was a spot on Arya Stark then.
That was great. Who we didn't see in this
supposed to be Jon
episode?
Snow.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Nick, Ben, Brandon. Who's your stock up this week?
Let's have Nick go first.
Okay. I wrote a few because I figured actually Tyrion was one of them that I thought his stock was up. I agree with the character and can't win them all. So damn guys, settle down a little bit. So I'll just do like a random one. I'm gonna say Davos. Just because I feel like in some regard he's become kind of a really good like hand of the king of the North, I guess. He's always been kind of like a more of a background character, but like his relationship with Shireen and even getting Stannis the funds he needed from the Iron Bank, he really kind of has been a key player in following and backing who you think might be the good in this story. Right now it's Jon Snow. And I'm up on him because really I just like the whole scene where Missandei introduced Daenerys.
Yes.
She's
Yes.
blah blah blah
Right.
blah
Yes.
blah blah blah
This is Jon Snow.
Yeah,
This is Jon Snow.
Like just like
That was fantastic.
Yeah, just like, and I liked, just like the glances between them. And he's just always been a strong character, and I like the role that he's playing. With Jon Snow. So yeah, I'm up on Davos.
How about you, Ben?
Okay, well, I have two, but I'll go with the number one.
Pick one.
Jorah. His stock is up because now I love that. So he gets cured, and I love that line. He's like, I didn't think of anything after this. I had I was accepted death, and I was gonna kill myself before anything. And it's like now he's got a whole new outlook and a whole new a real second chance. You know what I mean? And it's like now he's like, I'm just gonna go. I think his storyline will be interesting from here on out.
Good pick.
I feel.
So
I
the
feel.
reason I had
one.
you pick just one. The reason I had you pick just one because I had two. Jorah was one of them, and I was afraid you're going to take my other one. So my pick. Thank you guys for clearing the path for me. I appreciate it. Of course, it's Euron Greyjoy. Come on. He had the
You're
victory
right.
march back through town. He literally is dragging his enemies on a whip. He dropped them at the feet of Cersei. He kind of made his little comeuppance to and some of the advice that he was seeking from Jaime. I mean, come on.
So, you know what we should do for that case. So we should someone should find that clip. Matt, we should do this for the pod. Find that clip and put Prince Ali, fabulous he, Ali Ababa, underneath as he's going through.
Absolutely. Well, and in addition, not only did he do all that, that would have been enough to be stock up and winning the week, in my opinion. But then he followed it up and he destroyed the rest of her fleet that he missed the first time outside Casterly Rock. He's owning it.
He's having a very serious, from a practical wins perspective of the actual battlefield, and also just needling Jaime the whole time. But I think he got kind of cock blocked, not cock blocked, but shut down by Cersei of you will get what you want when the war's over.
Everything you want, I think. Yeah.
When the war's over, though, and he's just boo.
It was actually brilliant on her part. What did he do? He went out and destroyed the rest of the fleet. There are no more boats left to fight, except for Jon and his little dinghy.
I'm actually going to make us talk about it and bring up a second one. I don't know, Ben, if this was your other one, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I think it's important. Because I feel based on everything we've talked about, Cersei has had a huge week. And, Brandon, you talked about how, Daenerys is even drastically weaker now from a battle perspective, but she has she's even the playing field a little bit, and she's also getting her revenge on Ilaria, which was a pretty fantastic scene, I thought.
She's no longer hiding her relationship with her brother, and she's got female aides going up and down the castle in that little Romulan outfits. So
She looks like, you know what? With her haircut now, she looks like a Romulan.
yes,
Does she not?
absolutely
Yeah.
in charge.
Yeah, the Romulan short hair. Austin needs a little bit of pointy ears and black hair.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Well made, Matt. Cersei definitely stock is up this week for her.
And she sacrificed the rock to Baywatch. No, she sacrificed her home for I think that was sort of an rated moment, that they just kind of gave it up because it didn't serve a strategic value.
Right.
And
It was a brilliant strategic. Yeah, it was a brilliant sacrifice, like a chess move.
Yeah.
Well, it also goes back to the conversation that they had before, that Jaime and her had, is what is our dynasty? I'm gonna say it like they said it because really they're exactly. Really, because they're the last of the Lannister bloodline. So really, who cares about your ancestral home? Because you're it. So you got to build your own dynasty. and whatever it takes. So they went, they got the cash.
I feel like we're
yeah.
talking about like that Texas TV show. Oh yeah, I don't know the Dynasty.
Does anybody else? I still want to go back. This for some reason I had visions of what Matt suggested, that they actually used that the scorpion that they showed, and they launched the mountain at a dragon. That vision is still. We're going to need to have an animation or some type of Photoshop something to represent that, because that needs to happen.
That may have been in the works for a little bit, but yeah. But speaking of launching using the scorpion, I'm going to start with my stock down as the dragons, which is, I don't know. They didn't. I mean, there's no like explicit dragon scene or whatever, other than them swooping in and sort of background dressing. But I think, as somebody pointed out in our stream, that they think that a dragon's going to die. The dragons will die. Tom. I had this all queued up. Like, I think based on this episode, Daenerys' overconfidence that like they can't stop the dragons, and everyone else is sort of like, I don't know. I think it's either probably the next episode even, and that somebody dies. One of the
so
dragons
you're now
dies.
predicting stock to be down. It wasn't necessarily from this episode. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Because in this episode, they got to fly out. They got to impress the King of the North. They got to show off a little.
They got to do their like Blue Angels flyover.
Yeah, exactly. The missing wing formation, missing dragon formation.
Yeah, this is a stupid one. But whose stock is down?
No, it's not stupid.
Whose stock
I think you're absolutely right.
Whose stock is down for you guys?
What do you think, Ben?
Ned Stark. His stock's been down for a while. Gosh, I'm trying to search for her name. I'm so bad with names. What's her name? She drank poison. You know,
Olenna. Yeah.
Olenna. Her stock is obviously down, but it went up. Like, it had a nice spike at the end. You know, she's like, well, fuck. She went down. She's like, I got the last laugh, you son of a bitch.
So,
you know,
it's like the scene. It's like
ahead,
the scene in it's like the scene in the Terminator where like he's going into the lava and it's a thumbs up, except she's going into the lava and she's giving the middle finger.
She's just like,
yeah, you know,
it's like I've got both hands. I've got both hands, Jamie.
That was a great visual, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah,
with her little box hat on.
Yeah.
So
what was your stock down?
Brett,
what was your stock down, Nick?
Nick,
go ahead,
just to say, I don't want to overlook the Olenna part, because I felt like that was it was the end of the episode. It was like a big moment. So did she work? And maybe I'm just totally forgetting. So did she work with? Obviously she orchestrated everything. Like, so what's revealed? Like, this is new information, right? That she was involved.
You didn't know that? No. She mentioned that to her daughter.
Yeah.
That's right. She did. You're right. Okay. All right. Carry on.
Yeah, and if you get detailed, she actually had the poison implanted into a thing that she gave. And I'm trying to remember which one was represented. I think it was hinted at in the show, but it's more explicit in the books, that there's a hairpiece that Sansa is wearing at the actual banquet. Littlefinger. I think Littlefinger comes over and actually has it moved off, and that had the poison in it. It was actually in a headpiece, like piece of jewelry.
Jehovah. Sorry.
Go
ahead, Nick.
The Tyrells are basically evaporated, though. So like one of the big families is, I guess, out of the story essentially.
And she even makes reference to that when Jaime comes in. She talks about the rains of Castamere, and she goes, "And now our house has fallen." She actually quotes a line out of the song, which is pretty cool.
Well, there was like a big, there was sort of the two sides acknowledging how important the food source was during this time, and that, you know, I guess it was in the first episode, or maybe it was last episode, they brought up how the Tyrells have all the wheat that is like a valuable resource. And then in this episode, we got Sansa bringing it up as like her, you know, she's, you know, a genius mastermind at this point, and realizes how important that is, that they need like a source of food. And so like this was clearly like both a revenge move, but also a strategic move too. Kind of doubled up.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Tyrion, down. I don't know what you were talking about, man.
I
You just had Lady Olenna as a down bit.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, every episode, like, all of Tyrion moves were bad moves. So I'm
All
just
right,
saying.
what are the other downs?
Go ahead, Nick. Yeah, do yours.
Yeah. So this, like I said, this is a really good episode. So I feel like a lot of people had ups and downs, in a lot of regards. So I'm gonna give my down to somebody that actually had some ups, to Jamie. So I guess Jamie is my down because, well, he had to deal with Euron, who's like, "Hey, dude, I'm gonna have sex with your sister and your girlfriend," who's the same person. And then he outsmarted Tyrion to take over Highgarden, but he got kind of the little knife twist back in him when he found out that Olenna poisoned and murdered his son. And I feel like he had a little bit of realization there that maybe, you know, Cersei was kind of to blame for causing that feud. And there was another one. There was one other thing that Jamie did that was kind of screwed up. Help me out. What else did he do?
He got a blowjob.
That's true. He was up. He was up for a little bit. Like I said, he was up and down.
Yeah. Oh,
That does lead me to the other one though. In that you know, like just Cersei opening the door and not really hiding the relationship anymore. Like I feel like
I'll kill that girl if she gets out of line. You know.
Yeah, I just feel like it's interesting because he had the comment that like these people were spitting at us a couple weeks ago, and I feel like there's kind of strife even within their own people, like with their leaders, and so like just being out in the open and not really giving a shit kind of lowers the Lannister stock as a whole, more particularly maybe Jaime's because he's not the king.
Yeah, he had that was an interesting kind of. He's still holding on to like a. I don't know if it's shame, but like the old way of thinking, like how they needed to keep it a secret, whereas she sort of embraced this. I don't know. They're trying to tease this Mad Queen idea of like just brazenness, but she's sort of taken on an idea of like I have no fucks to give. You know, like I'm the queen now. Like I'm all powerful.
She's got some fucks to give.
She's
you know?
she's not only she's the queen with no actual right to the throne. There is no lineage line that should end up with Cersei on the throne. Everyone just said, "I ain't gonna tell her she can't have it."
I will say I will say after they made love or whatever you want to say, Jamie did conquer one of the biggest houses in the Seven Kingdoms. So. There's something to be said about some sexual healing.
Yeah. I feel like $1 million.
You're gonna go there, but you're not gonna make the joke that he was riding at the front of the Vanguard with Dick on.
Dick on.
That's true.
Well done.
I'm here every Sunday.
Brandon,
All right.
who's your stock down?
All right, let's bring it home. Once again, I appreciate you guys leaving me this path. The stock down for me, obviously, this week was Brandon Stark. So
I'm
he comes
really
back,
glad you brought that up.
He comes back. He's back in town. He's as Sansa points out, he is the true Lord of Winterfell, the rightful trueborn son. Comes back finally after all this time, sees his sister. She's so excited to see him, and within like 15 minutes of talking to him, she's already sick of him and she's walking away. I mean, if your sister, who's been through everything she's been through, is so fed up with you within 15 minutes, I mean, how could your stock be any worse?
It
Well,
could
he
not
was
be
talking
any
about
lower.
the night she got raped, right?
Well,
he was talking about
yeah.
the night, like,
Well,
yeah,
first
he's
he
like-
creeps her out. He creeps her out by saying, I can basically see everything, everywhere, every win. That means forward and back. He sees all. And his
Are you
biggest-
Santa Claus?
It's magic. It's the magic of Christmas.
I kind of like that scene though, the way like he's like, I'm the three-eyed raven and I learned everything from the three-eyed raven. She's like, what's that mean? I thought you were the three-eyed raven.
It's just like, wait,
You know what?
what's the
That
three-eyed
plays
raven?
to-
What are you talking about?
Yeah. But him explaining like I thought you were the three-eyed raven, that plays in our theory that possibly that was him, the old man, as a three-eyed raven too.
They
So
did-
It's
they
a cycle
even-
of himself.
they did even acknowledge, they kind of gave like a uncertainty to that theory a little bit. Like, I don't know, like, it's complicated. I'm the three-eyed raven and learned from the three-eyed raven. And
Well, and we've talked about this before, but I think the story writers that are obviously taking George R. R. Martin's base story and writing it are just extremely talented. So not only did we get him talking about how he's seeing everything, you had that line from Littlefinger, who had no idea what the conversation was, but he's talking to Sansa, talking about how keep every battle at every moment, at every time in your head. So even though it is a separate thing, it's in that arc, and he's reinforcing some of the same themes. We got a lot of reinforcement of themes with Dany and Jon and what they're going through and what the houses have went through in the past, and it's so expertly done.
I'm gonna do like a Brandon bomb here. Because I think that's a great observation. Because they clearly know. I don't know. I'm really impressed with, like, I'm late to the game of Game of Thrones, but I'm really impressed. There's clearly a difference once they kind of had the shackles of the books taken off a little bit, and you can see sort of the showrunners come through a little bit more. And what they're doing with this season, we've talked about how early on, like, they kind of started slow and they're setting up the board, but what they're doing, it's methodical, but very, still very engaging, I think. And they're not relying on like crazy action for everything, but there's still like a high level of intrigue with every single scene that they're setting up.
One thing I'll add to that too is they're making some deliberate choices that, a lot of book readers are up in arms because there's certain things going on in the books that it doesn't seem like it's even possible for it to end up in these places. Some characters are dead that are still alive in the show, and vice versa. And there's a certain point in where they've made choices to divert to tell the same overall story, but to do it with different, colors and different brushes. And if you let yourself go and just realize you're going to get a similar story, but it's going to be told differently, and you can enjoy both, it's okay. There's a lot to really soak in, and obviously we're getting the TV show first, and hopefully we still get what we're hoping to get out of the books, but he does need to pick up the speed a little bit.
Mm-hmm. He's watching the show like, this is really good. Oh crap! I gotta finish writing. So
I'm not gonna let that happen.
Well, that's a mistake. Yeah, like he's like, I mean, you're one guy.
Matt, did you say who your stock down was?
Writers.
Yeah, my stock down was the Dragons. Although,
yeah, that's right. You started this off.
Although I'm still like, I'm gonna go to it again because this has been my theme for like the whole season and even before. Daenerys is down.
Yeah.
Both from
Matt
like a show perspective. A show perspective, like her character obviously took a huge hit. The first 3 episodes of the season, she seemed invincible, and now she is very much beatable, other than the dragons, which again I think have been teased to be like a victim, like a casualty in the next episode or in the next episode or two. That said, I actually do think it's really interesting that they went this route. I kind of thought she would kind of coast into the throne. And this is way more, I don't know. I personally thought like seeing Cersei hit rock bottom even further than the shame episodes would be more interesting. But they're proving me wrong a little bit by like showing Cersei's worth, like kind of clawing back into the picture and Daenerys falling down. I think that's an interesting twist. But from Daenerys' perspective, strategically her stock is down, and some of her scenes, like, I don't know, just the scene when
I got mad at her
when they were outside, when she was outside and gave Jon the consent to go mine the dragon glass, like, that was just, I don't know, that was like, you could have like sent an email with that information, like, it was so kind of bleh.
Yeah. the email ravens that they have.
Yeah,
they're quicker.
Forward that on.
Or a tweet.
Yeah. Boom.
Boom.
Could you say that you lacked imagination when it came to Cersei, Matt?
I sure did. I like the
Yeah.
imagination. That was an amazing scene by Olena's character. Honestly, that was a great little monologue.
She went down she went down like that flight attendant who got so sick of the customer that when they landed, he pushed the emergency slide down, got his beer, and says "fuck you, people," and like this like went out like a champ. Then he got arrested.
I will say, like, the stuff with Danny wasn't as bad as it's been in some other weeks. The Dragonstone,
That's
like
true.
that scenery, that was gorgeous. Like, I was like the entire
Oh.
time, like all the shots that they had in Dragonstone.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was like, holy
with
crap!
you.
The shot where they're walking up the winding
Yep.
path and Tyrion's talking to
dragon's
Jon,
fly.
like,
Yeah.
oh my god, that was amazing.
I'm so
There's
glad you
that
called
shot.
that out.
That was a great shot.
Me too. And I was like, this is beautiful. You know, like, is that in Ireland that they shot that? Like, I don't know where those are.
I don't remember where the Dragonstone ones are shot. They have a lot of different locations, and one of them is near Belfast, so
So
very well could be.
I've got two other kind of stray thoughts before we wrap up that I don't think we've talked about, and then if you guys have anything else. One is what we kind of, I don't know, what I at least thought was we had a lot of the Grey Worm, Missandei, is that her name? Missandei. Kind of relationship in the last episode. That kind of came up, but not really in this episode, which I thought was surprising. Like that it sort of represents their patience with some of these more established characters, which we haven't seen. Like they're kind of methodically going down rather than doing like a big cut down, which I guess maybe they could massacre like 4 or 5 main characters by the season finale in one episode, but I think it's interesting that they're kind of slow playing, especially the Grey Worm storyline. All right, that wasn't super interesting. The last thing I would just, and we can talk about both of them, was like we barely mentioned Sansa and Littlefinger, which I thought was a pretty telling scene, as quick as it was.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that scene, man?
well, I think it goes to show Sansa's like rocket to the moon to like stardom in this world of like she is going to be a ruler and is already competent. Like how old is she supposed to be in this world? Like
That's a good question.
16.
Well, in the books, all the children were a lot younger. They've been aged up for the show, even from the get-go. So I don't know if we have anything hard to go by, considering the fact that they're so much younger in the books.
like given the Stark kind of the family, obviously they're as Ben mentioned earlier, the family we're following from the start as like the good guys or whatever, but like each one of them has developed at like a exponential pace within their different pathways, I guess, as warrior, ruler, or, magic. Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
I agree with you fully as far as the character arcs and everything. They got so lucky, I think, with the kids that they cast in the show, because even as they've grown up, I feel like they're all really good at what they're doing as far as how they own their character. Obviously, Maisie Williams, I think, is arguably the best of all of them, but they're all very good and able to hold scenes with everyone they're going. Her holding scenes, with Baelish, I think it's really effective. It builds that tension in me as a viewer, because it's like it looks like she's getting more confident with him, which is great. But on the same token, we know not to trust him for anything. And it's like, I know you think you got this under control, but you probably shouldn't be sitting there thinking you have anything under control with him.
Because everything that we're gonna see, we've already seen before. And we've seen a lot of history of him.
Yeah,
He's
that's
sneaky.
completely fair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's talking about different things and thoughts for the episode. The whole Jorah thing, right? So Ben mentioned it earlier as a stock up, and the whole idea of what's going to happen. What's Jorah's arc? We obviously assume he's going to go back to Daenerys, and he's going to hear, if he hasn't already, that she's on Dragonstone. So that's kind of where he's probably going to be headed. Now we also know between between map wise, I doubt they get this specific. There's a lot of strife he has to go through, right? He would have to go through Highgarden. He'd have to go through some of these areas. So will we see him run into some of these other characters before he gets there? I don't know. But one thing I'm really interested in, this is more long term, but what's it mean now in a world where Jorah, who was banished from Westeros by Ned Stark for dealing in slaves, and we got a little bit of that story, I think, in season 1, even when he's kind of telling the story of how he ended up in Essos. But he is, what's Lyanna Mormont think of him, right? So that she's now the heir of Bear Island. She's the one running that House Mormont. Now that Jorah's back in play, and if they end up becoming kind of teaming up with Daenerys, what's that look like? Is that something that they don't take kindly to? She's obviously very young, so she might not even been alive when he was banished. I mean, also, if you think, I mean, technically Jon's sword was supposed to be Jorah's. It was reshaped with a wolf head claw, right? So Wolfclaw, the name of the sword, was actually meant to be Jorah's, but because he was banished and ashamed, his dad basically had it remade for
Well, that's
Jon.
a good point. You know what? They'll probably mention it because Jon's there. You mean with his sword, and he's like, "Hey, that's my sword." No, it's my sword. And then like they become friends.
Oh my gosh! Did you have like recording of Jorah? It was wow.
Crazy.
How
I'm
great?
also-
Go ahead, Nick.
I'm also interested in like the ramifications of Tyrion now having like 2 failed battle plans, essentially. Like he's been like the general master or whatever, the hand of the queen, on 2 things that have kind of decimated her strength. So like, how's that going to play? Especially like if Jorah comes back, is she going to lose faith in Tyrion? Is she going to want to put more faith in Jorah? I don't know.
That's a really good point. Well, is there going to be any? Not that we know that it's not as viewers, but is there going to be any concern that he's not given the best advice because he doesn't want his brother to be killed? Right? Is that going to be brought up as something to make him and his advice suspect?
Here's a question. How did the? Wait a minute.
Here we go.
Wait. So Euron, as I like to call them, Euron's boats were
They're yellow.
on the opposite side of where they were in this episode, right? From episode 2 to 3, they were on opposite sides of the map, right?
Yes.
How did they get all the way there?
That is.
They have a Panama Canal.
He
That's
is
the
the
only
drowned
thing
god.
He's
No,
the
but
they go under the whole crust of the land and submarine U-boat in.
My prediction is they like in this world they have their own Panama Canal. You know, like they. You know,
Are you guys familiar with the Marvel No Prize?
No.
So back in Marvel Comics, if you found something that was like a continuity error or something, and you pointed it out, and you provided the answer to actually make it make sense, they used to give you what in the back of the comics they give you what they called the No Prize, meaning you didn't find a problem because you just happened to understand why that way to begin with.
The truth of the matter is, and thank you for my No Prize Game of Thrones writer, is that Jaime and Cersei were getting it on for like 3 weeks.
It was a 3-week.
So here's one thing: we don't actually see Euron with his fleet at Casterly Rock, so he could have technically split his fleet up and sent them around. Even though we see him in King's Landing, so there's nothing that says Euron was with his fleet when it was a Casterly Rock.
All right, fine.
But you're good. It's good to point that out. There's all sorts of travel things. Littlefinger's travel, and I think season 5 is like the pinnacle of this type of craziness. But
I fully expect to see Jorah just in Dragonstone with very little happening in between.
Yeah, me too.
He just teleports there with his
it's very possible, right?
mermaid legs like Varys. There's just everybody is a mermaid, and we just haven't gotten that information yet. Yeah,
very possible.
So let's just wrap up. Any other sort of what are you anticipating for episode 4? Because we will have eclipsed the halfway point next week, which is crazy. That we're already there. But what? Because if we're talking about a 7-episode season, and we're going into episode 4, and this season has sort of been like, I wouldn't even call it slow, but methodical. Like like I feel like shit's about to hit the fan. So what are you guys anticipating for the last, not just 4 episodes, but specifically the next episode?
I say the next episode. I like your call on the dragons. I feel like they left Casterly Rock hanging a little bit, so I could see Daenerys like, screw it. She's going, like, she hears that her Unsullied are trapped in Casterly Rock. She's gonna go attack with a dragon, maybe, or maybe she's not gonna go. She's gonna send some dragons. I don't know what she's gonna do. She's gonna go with dragons, and Qyburn is gonna teleport onto that ship with his scorpion. And launch it through the skull of one of her dragons. And they're like, oh well, I knew she was gonna send dragons after Euron teleported over there, so let's have her. So that I like your call. I feel like they purposefully left that hanging, and I feel like they're gonna tie it up probably in the next episode.
Okay.
Somehow.
Ben, Brandon?
She is the breaker. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Go ahead, Brandon. No. You have something worth.
After you, sir. Brandon, go ahead.
I for the most part, I echo. I think you guys got it exactly right. I think all the different strategies, and it was even kind of hinted at, right? All the different strategies have got them steps back. I think she's known as the breaker of chains. I think she's about to go unchained. I think she's going to go off. I think we're going to see some retribution dragon style for sure. Up north, I do think we didn't see her this episode. I do think Arya makes a return. It'd be interesting. It was interesting. I was fascinated by the whole reunion between Sansa and Bran. And I think the Arya Sansa one's going to be just as fascinating to me. I'm hopeful they get along more than Sansa and Bran did, because I'd really like to see, Sansa's kind of renewed sense of understanding how the game's played, and Arya's ability to kind of take out any piece that needs to be taken out. I'd love to see them team up.
Here's the thing. Here's the theory. Here's the theory with that that I thought about. When Arya gets there, she's not going to reveal herself right away. I think they're going to have her be someone else for a while.
She already is. She's back there talking to the blacksmith about putting leather on the armor.
She's actually been Littlefinger this whole time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, that could be the downfall. Like she could be like the silent ninja protector and be on to Littlefinger and kill Littlefinger, and then I would win the prize for Littlefinger dying because I have him on my board. But I think Arya might be the demise of Littlefinger. Personally, and I don't think she's going to reveal herself right away. I think. That's my prediction. You guys kind of covered the other predictions. So, what about you, Matt?
So we've kind of covered some of the more interesting ideas. I think Daenerys maybe riding in on a dragon even by herself in like an impulse move would be an interesting scene. I think they'll end up talking her out of that. But I'm really interested to see. I think we're gonna get like a lot of weird mining. Dragon glass mining shots with Jon, and the potential to maybe sort of bring more characters to the south and see how, because we gotta get all this dragon glass. So like there's an actual element, like we got to bring people, and then like there's like the transportation element. So seeing like bringing people down and like seeing those meetups, I don't know who they would bring down. I don't think to Brandon's point, I don't think Sansa or even Arya or Bran. I think they'll stay there. But potentially like some of these wildling characters may come down, and then seeing when shit hits the fan, like this inevitable team up potentially. And where that goes. So I'm actually interested to see where Jon goes now that he's given the opportunity to get Dragonglass, and then with the war there, and seeing how he responds to that situation. So that's what I'm interested in. Anything else before we go and start quickly scouring the internet for all the Easter eggs we did not catch?
I think we covered it.
Yeah, I think we hit it pretty well. It was a great episode. It's been a really good season so far, and I'm definitely looking forward to next week.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, me too. It doesn't come out fast enough.
So, All right. Well, thanks everybody for for putting up with Ben specifically, but
Oh yeah.
no, I'm just kidding. Thank you for watching. Really, I'm glad we got some of the
Careful
technical.
when you sleep, Matt.
We got some of the technical difficulties out of the way this week, and next week we'll be back for same time, same place as for episode 4. So
Woohoo!
we'll see you then.